And ESPN Radio 94.1 is your home for ODU football. We bring in the head football coach of the Monarchs, none other than Bobby Wilder. Coach, how you doing out there?
Living the dream. How are you guys this morning?
Oh, we are great. We've got Ed back in the saddle again after his 5-week assignment vacation, if you will. And I know it's an exciting time at ODU with all the camps. Penn State yesterday, you got some team camps coming up. It's a busy time over there at ODU, is it not?
It is, yeah. We're allowed to have 10 camps in the summer at the FBS level. We take full advantage of all 10 between our 4 major satellite camps, and then we have a quarterback camp going on this morning. We have a specialist camp going on this morning. So trying to get as many high school student athletes on our campus as possible.
We had a parent a few weeks ago call in about camps and what ones they should go to, how they decipher between the ones that really can enhance their child's profile, if you will. What in your eyes are the benefits from the student athlete's perspective, and then from the colleges such as yourself with all these camps in the summer?
Well, I think it depends on Matthew where the young man is looking to go. There are so many that are individual camps where you're going and it's just one school that you're looking at, and that's why we stopped doing that at Old Dominion. We used to do camps that were just for Old Dominion, just run by the Old Dominion coaches, so the players would come, and this would be the only school. Now, selfishly, that's great for us, but I don't feel like it's as good for the high school student athletes. So we started doing the satellite camps, and 4 years ago, we partnered with Penn State, and ever since then, we've had Penn State every year. We've had Michigan the last 3 years, and the list of schools goes on and on. For example, last Sunday, we had 652 high school players here. We had over 50 schools represented, over 100 different coaches were here. So now a young person's paying to come to the Old Dominion football camp, but there's 50 schools that are getting all his information, and we share all the information with everything, the contact information, what their testing results were. The coaches get to work with the players, so it expands your evaluation from just watching high school video to getting that one-on-one contact. We had about 300 players here yesterday with Penn State. We'll have probably close to 300 here again today, with the headline of Maryland and Tennessee being the 2 bigger programs here. But again, we're going to have probably 50 different schools represented again here today. So if you're a player in the 757 and you're a parent and you can't afford to take your son or daughter to all these different schools all across the country, we're trying to bring all those schools here to help the local high school players. Impressive
numbers, none to say the least. And you go to BobbyWilder353.com/camps for all the dates and registration info if you want to get your child out to one of the camps. BobbyWilder353.com/camps. Ed?
Matthew, do you know what the 353 means?
I've heard it before. Refresh my memory.
Yeah, let me give this one to
you
here. We were thinking about how awesome it is to live in this area, and at the FBS level, you're guaranteed to play 12 football games per year against great competition, whether it's Virginia Tech, whoever it might be that we're playing. Well, what's your life like the other 353 days? And if you live in coastal Virginia, your life's pretty good. So that's why we go with Bobby Wilder 353 for our camp.
I can dig it. Pretty good, Ed.
Yeah, that's not bad. Coach Ed Young here. How you doing?
Ed, great to hear from you. Welcome back.
Yeah, I had to take care of some family illnesses that really required my time, and mentally I wouldn't be able to have been here anyway. So I'm back, and they're on the road recovery, and it's awesome. Good to be back, and obviously talking to Coach Wilder makes it even better.
Yes, sir. Great to have you back.
Hey, a couple things. I'm supposed to follow script, but I can't do this. The camp thing intrigues me. You get a Penn State, they come to Old Dominion. Now, let me ask you this. Does Penn State set up the camp, or do you guys basically set up the camp and Penn State happens to be there with a bunch of other schools? How does this really, the inner workings of it?
We run the camp. The Old Dominion football staff runs the camp. These camps now are incorporated, so the majority of schools around the country, it's no longer run by the school. When I first got hired here, it was the Old Dominion football camp. Now it's the Bobby Wilder football camp, so we run it entirely. We invite those staffs to come here, and basically what we tell them is we're going to do all the work. You come here and evaluate the players. It's a win-win for us. It's a win-win for the local players. We get all those coaches on our campus. More players want to come. More players and families are seeing Old Dominion University, and it's a great opportunity for James Franklin and his staff to evaluate the local talent in this area. And for the local talent, they don't have to drive all the way to Penn State to be evaluated.
And then at the same time, you'll have a bunch of other college staffs there that are welcome on site and to do their evaluations too, and are given all the information on those kids.
Absolutely, and one thing I want to make clear: it does not matter to us if you're in our league, if you're a rival, if you're an opponent. For example, we opened this year on the road at Liberty. Liberty had 4 coaches here yesterday, and I was talking to one of their coaches, and he said to me, "Coach, I'm really surprised you let us come here." And I said, I'm glad you brought that up, because this isn't about Old Dominion and Liberty. This is about the high school players. This is about these kids getting as many opportunities as they can get to go to college. And when you take out that mentality of it's just about Old Dominion or it's just about Liberty, it makes it better for the high school players. We had Norfolk State's coaches here yesterday. We've had Hampton's coaches here. We had William and Mary's coaches here. So all of these schools, they're all invited. We want them all to come, because that's another set of eyes that's on the local high school players.
And Coach, I'm going to deep into your files being a coach. The other reason you don't mind them coming in is now you know who they are looking at and who they might get when you have to play them down the road.
I get where you're going with that, Ed, but I could care less.
There you go.
I'm going to coach my team, and I'm going to recruit my players.
I like that cover. That's a good way to do it. Hey, Coach, the other thing now, we get into the rule changes. Definitely like your opinion on the red shirt rule. You could play up to 4 games, keep the red shirt on, react to that, and then also get into the idea of the transfer. And this is the one that kind of gets me. If I'm a college coach, I'm not sure I like this one, where you don't have to get permission from the school to leave, and you can go get a scholarship elsewhere. Talk about those 2 rules and what you feel.
Playing the red shirt, I absolutely love it. I've been an advocate for this for all 30 years that I've been in coaching. And 2 things that happen, Ed. Number one, now that young person will be more engaged the entire year. The statistics have shown that when you lose a player, whether it's to homesickness or he doesn't do well in school, have shown that it's because they're not as engaged with the team. They're not allowed to be playing on Saturday. They don't have that opportunity. And imagine you've been playing this game since you're 8 years old. You play for 10, 11 straight years, and then all of a sudden you don't get to play. And that's hard on some young people to do that. So now they'll be more engaged. The second thing it does, it helps your current team with depth. For example, last year we had a linebacker, a redshirt freshman linebacker. This is just one of many examples I'll give you, named Jordan Young. Outstanding young player. He played 895 snaps last year. He averaged 74.5 snaps per game. In our 12th game of the year, we're at Middle Tennessee, and we need the win to get in the bowl game. He plays 95 plays in that game, 81 snaps at linebacker, 14 on special teams. That's just too much football. But we were so banged up and so injured at that point, we didn't have any other options to get him off the field. Now we'll have options. Now we'll have a freshman who can play in up to 4 games that we'll be able to substitute in. We'll be able to do it early in the year if we choose, middle of the year, or end of the year. So that's going to be a great rule that's not only going to help the incoming freshmen, keep them engaged, they'll do better in school, they'll be better socially. It's also going to help your current players so they don't play 895 snaps in a 12-game season.
We're chatting with Bobby Water, head football coach of the Old Dominion Monarchs, here on High School Sports Talk, presented by VirginiaPreps.com on ESPN Radio 94.1. Monarchs have a ton of football camps going on. Go to BobbyWilder353.com/camps for more information here on ESPN Radio 94.1, your home for ODU football. And Coach, I just brought Ed the Street and Smiths magazine, and I know
not to cut you off, but I didn't answer Ed's second question.
Sure, go ahead. The transfer. Yep, absolutely.
Go ahead, Ed. Can you repeat that question?
Well, the second big rule was on the transfer. Now, kids can transfer without getting permission from the school they're at and accept a scholarship elsewhere.
Right.
Talk about that one.
Yeah. First of all, Ed, I want to say my philosophy on this has always been It's my job to keep a young person engaged. It's my job and our coach's job to make sure they're having a great experience. So the few times in the 10 years of our program where somebody has asked if they can transfer, number one, I've never denied them the ability to transfer, and I've never limited any of their schools. So this rule will have no effect on me or the Old Dominion football program, because I always want the young person to have a good experience. And I think by having that philosophy, Ed, we have had very few players that have ever wanted to transfer from Old Dominion. Part of it's a great school, part of it's the 3-5-3 philosophy, where it's a great place to live, and number two, we take good care of our players. But you have to understand, in this day and age, young people they're getting a lot of pressure from, whether it's home, whether it's family, friend. Why aren't you playing? You should be playing. You can get a better opportunity at another school. So young people want the ability to transfer. In football, Ed, one of the things that people don't always keep in mind is you've got to be in good standing academically to transfer. You've got to be doing well in school to transfer. You've got to research that other school and make sure, number one, they have your major, and number two, they'll take your credits. Because you could go from being a junior and transferring, you go to another school, they don't have your major, they don't take your credits, you might drop down to being a sophomore. You might lose a year of school. So, young people need to be aware and do the research on this. But I've never blocked anybody. I don't have any problem at all with the rule, but young people also have to understand they're going to lose their aid at their current school when they make that transfer, when they go somewhere else. So hopefully they're doing the research they need to do before they leave. And you and I know this, Ed, we've been around. The grass is not always greener on the other side of the fence.
No, and people, I know I've coached a few years in the college level, and people say, well, why would you lose kids to transfer? When you go out and recruit, you try not to make mistakes on a kid. But come on now, sometimes it's hit or miss, because the kid looks good, looks like he's going to fit your program, gets there, and maybe somebody else passes him up, or he gets disillusioned with all the work. Because how kids coming out of high school think when they get recruited, they're like the best thing since sliced bread, and they're just going to step on a quarter field and all they got to do is play. There's a lot more to college than just that.
Right. Yep.
And some kids can't handle it. So, and I'm like you, if a kid comes to me and says, well, Coach, I'm disenchanted, disillusioned, blah, 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 we'll talk, but I'm not going to hold you here if you don't want to be here, but You're going to do it the right way.
That's a great point you bring up, Ed, and there are a number of situations now where you look at, and we're a good example. You look at us, we started football 10 years ago, we were FCS, now we've moved up to FBS. There are times when we may have a young man who just cannot physically perform what he needs to perform at this level of football against the competition we're playing. And we've had a few situations where, we've talked to the young person and their family, and they've said, hey, you know what, Coach, I really appreciate you recruiting me, the opportunity. I think I'd be better off transferring down to an FCS school where I can have the opportunity to play there. And then right away we go into the mode where we're going to help them. We'll reach out to schools. We'll give them recommendations, and it's worked better for the player to do that. Because you bring up a good point, Ed. It's not an exact science. You don't always know what's going to happen, how it goes from high school to Division I football, and it's so competitive at this level. For example, Ed, every player on our team here at Old Dominion was the best player on their high school team. So you take 110 players that were all the best in their high school team, a young guy comes in, he looks up, he's fifth on the depth chart, and he's looking up going, how am I ever going to play here? Look how good these guys are. So we have to preach patience with them. Give yourself some time. You were a great player in high school, but all these guys around you are great players. It's going to take a minute. Sometimes it works out. Sometimes it doesn't. Most often than not, Ed, it's because the young people just get impatient. They were the star of their senior year in high school. Now they come in and they redshirt, and, well, at least now they can play a few games, but then their sophomore year they don't start. A lot of times they don't start until their junior year, and that's hard on some young people, particularly when they've been the best player the entire time throughout their career. That's a bit of a challenge. But I do think, Ed, just talking strictly about the transfer rule, we're not going to see it be like it is in basketball. I do not see that happening in football, just the mass exodus that you see. And I do still believe that the transfers you see in football will be from FBS down to FCS, and then FCS down to Division II, because our rule isn't changing it. You still, unless you're a graduate, you still have to sit for a year if you transfer. All this rule means is that college coaches can't block players now when they're trying to transfer, which, again, I'll reiterate, I've never done it, I never will, but across the country now, nobody can block a player. In the SEC, for example, Alabama can't block a player from transferring and going to Georgia. Georgia can't block a player from transferring and going to Alabama. That's what this rule means.
And really, when you look at it, the block, people will say, well, why have a block? Well, sometimes you got some people in the business that do things underhanded. Let's just call it what it is. Mm-hmm. And they'll mess with a program or a player from a program and sell them a bag of shells or whatever. And when you're able to block somebody, if you catch hold of that, you could kind of block a kid. Not that you're trying to hurt his career, because like I said, when we did it, hey, you want to go. But again, it's going to be done the right way. I'm protecting my program.
Correct. That's
my interest.
That's a fair point. You're bringing up, Ed, is that when that young person leaves and goes to a rival program, they know how you run your program. They know your playbook. They know exactly what you're doing. There has to be consideration given to that. But I also feel like we need to do a better job within our programs of making sure that the young person's having a good experience. They're there for the right reasons. They know the number one goal is to become a future leader of our country and to get a great education. And then, yes, I'm going to play football, but it's also up to us at the institutions to do a great job where we make it that they don't want to leave. They want to stay there. They feel a sense of pride to Old Dominion, that this is their program. I love Old Dominion. It's my university. That's going to be my alma mater, or I'm always going to come back to. And we have to continually do a good job of that as college football coaches.
Well, now let's talk about that good side. A kid who was dear to my heart when he played basketball for me at Nansemond River. He got the opportunity to play football for you, and he's just one hell of a young man, comes from a great family. Tell us about Marvin Branch.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up Marvin Branch. This is a great example of somebody who, throughout our course of our time here at going into this will be our 10th year playing football, we've had 30 walk-ons that have earned full scholarships. Marvin's one of them. Marvin came to us as a walk-on. He was an undersized linebacker, really good player. We thought he had the potential to become what he is, and he's our starting linebacker right now. Had an excellent season last year, Eddie. He was just shy of 100 tackles. For the year, he's grown into a 6'2", 225-pound linebacker. He's just one of the best people you'll ever meet, comes from a great family, as you well know, and he's done a phenomenal job within our program. We have 22 seniors this year, and Marvin's one of our best leaders. He does well in school. He does well in the community, and he's just a really fun person to be around.
Absolutely. Like I said, he was for us in basketball. He wasn't really a basketball player, but we had to have him on the court to win games.
Yep, he's that type of person. You mentioned his basketball ability, which we saw. We watched him play, and he was a guy that was going to be a great team player. That's one of the things that stood out to me about Marvin in high school. He was going to be a team guy, and that's what our coaches saw in Marvin, and that's how he's been here going into this will be his 5th year this year. He redshirted for us. It'll be his 5th year, and he's been very consistent with that attitude and that personality.
A great young man. We had on the show last year. We'll get you on this one, Coach. We thank you so much for your time. We'll have to get you on again sometime here in the very near future. I was telling Ed, we brought in the Street and Smiths magazine, and I know the preseason prognostications mean nothing, but 2 years ago, the league picked you guys way too low, and you warned them. 10 wins and a Bahama Bowls victory proved it. And I look at your team. You got a quarterback in Stephen Williams, who was the youngest in the nation last year. I think the last 3 games was right around 71% completion percentage. You bring back Isaiah Harper out of Grassfield at special teams, big weapon. You get O'Shane Zimani's back at defensive end. If you're a pass rusher, Jonathan Duhart back from receiver from an injury. I can go on and on. But any chance we get a similar reaction from you today or at CUSA Media Day that, hey, we might be a little bit slept on here in the conference?
Well, I appreciate you bringing that up, Matthew, and your research. As always, you do a good job with your research about our team. This 2 years ago, you're right. We made a point when we went to the CUSA Media Day that we felt like we were going to be a good football team. It was nothing against anybody down there. Our league's a good league, Matthew. Last year, we had 10 out of 14 teams that were bowl eligible last year. 9 got selected to go to bowls. The East Side was incredibly difficult last year. We went into our last game at Middle Tennessee. If we win, we're going to a bowl game, and that was with 20 injuries that we had last year, with 8 of our top players out for the year. You just mentioned the guys who are back from injury and our young quarterback who's back. I've got 22 seniors this year. I feel like this has the ability to be a very good football team. The big unknowns, as you know, Matt and Ed, are always injuries. You can just never predict. I don't care if it's football, basketball, whatever sports. So you've got to do a really good job developing your backups, and we've got some quality backups this year. We've got over 50 players on our team that have got really good experience. We're having a tremendous off season. I love our schedule this year from right out the gate, going to Liberty to open up. And then week 2, our first home game is Florida International, so we open in league play. They were 8-5 last year. Butch Davis did a great job with that program. Then we go on the road to Charlotte for our second league game. Then we're home to Virginia Tech, and then we're at East Carolina. So right out the gate, we play 5 games, and they're all regional games. I love the non-league being Liberty, Virginia Tech, East Carolina, and VMI. You're talking about 3 in-state games. You're talking about East Carolina that's only 2.5 hours away. So the schedule sets up really well for us. It reminds me of 2 years ago. And my prediction right now, Matthew, would be if we can stay healthy this year and we've got a really good mindset as a team, which we have right now, look out, because the Monarchs are going to be fun to watch.
Oh, it should be good. Well, we look forward to getting you on again, Coach. Thank you so much for the time this morning. Maybe we'll get you in studio if we get a chance before the season to have you and Ed go head-to-head in Fact or Fiction, which is always a fun trivia game, and I love to root against him.
Hey, I'm not going head-to-head with Ed.
You can beat him. He's not that hard.
Hey, you answer the basketball questions, and I'll do the football ones.
Ed's unbelievable at that game, Matthew. I don't even want to put it out there. I get too much respect.
All right. Thank you, Coach. Enjoy your weekend.
Yeah, appreciate you having me on. We've got camp again today. Excited to see all the local players again today. And thanks again, guys, for having me on. Look forward to talking to you again.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you, Coach.
You got it. Have a great day, guys.
You too. Bobby Water, head football coach of the ODU Monarchs. Again, go to BobbyWater353.com/camps for all the information, registration, and dates. Oh, he's just got a load of energy. Another guy who's just full of energy, our guy Eli Harold is supposed to join us next from the San Francisco 49ers out of Ocean Lakes High School and UVA. Don't go anywhere. It's High School Sports Talk only